Okay, so somebody said I should do a get ready with me post. So in my quest to look like a person, I remembered and decided that while I'm getting ready, since this month is the power of boundaries, the month of October is the power of boundaries in the Power Poise Planner, I figured it'd be a great time to end the month with how I mastered my boundaries. And I say that because, having boundaries is not the easiest of traits to build. It can be very uncomfortable. It can be off-putting to people. You can be concerned with what they're going to think about you, how they're going to feel about you, and what that means for your relationship. And so when it comes to boundaries, I mastered it quite a while ago, and I did it by doing a few things. And so we're going to talk through them as I remember what they are, because I have not written this down. So this is hot off the press, fresh. We're going to figure it out as we go along. I remember the first major boundary I set, and it was after time of getting to know God and getting closer to God and understanding his expectations of me, and him expecting me to be a good steward over everything that he had given me. And so I was extremely busy, and I had so many things on my plate. I was a single mom. I was in school to get my bachelor's degree. I had a full-time job. I was volunteering at a church, helping out the pastor in his offline business. I was in ministry at church, and of course friends and different things like that. So when I say my plate was full, it was extremely full, and I was getting burnt out and tired a lot. And so I was praying about it one day, sitting outside on my balcony in the swing. Beautiful day. And I was praying about it, and I was talking to God about it, because I was just like, Lord, I am tired. I am beyond tired. I have all these things I have to do and all these spaces I have to be in, and I don't know how I'm going to get it all done. And I kid you not, I mean, you may believe it, you may not believe it, it's up to you, but I believe God told me in that moment, I didn't put all this stuff on your plate. I wholeheartedly believe he told me, I didn't give you all of those things. I didn't tell you to do all of those things. So it may be that you're burnt out because you took all these things upon yourself to do, and you can't handle everything. And in that moment, hearing that, whether it was the Holy Spirit, whether it was God, thinking it, whatever it was, I made a decision to cancel everything God had not put on my plate. And and so that meant for me that I was not going to be helping out in the pastor's business, and I would have to, the only thing I left on my plate after that was my daughter, because I'm a single mom. That's not something I can give up. So I felt like that was a God-directed, God-required item for me to have. And school. So I focused on school, I focused on my daughter, and I focused on my full-time job, because I had to make sure I could pay my bills. And, well, as many of them as I could pay anyway. And so everything else I put on hold. I put on pause. I talked to the pastor, told him I wasn't gonna be able to do that anymore. I pulled back from ministry. Friends and family, I love you, yes, but if it's not these things, I can't focus on it. And I felt a sense of release, like release, all of it. It was for me empowering, because then I knew that my time is in my control. My resources are in my control. My thought process, my ability to do whatever it is, if God put it on my plate, I'd be able to handle it. If I put it on my plate, then I may become overwhelmed and tired. So that was the first time. The second major time I dealt with boundaries was still within that same vein, thinking about what God had put on my plate, what He expected of me, and what He gave me as a responsibility. And so what stewardship mean. And this one more so related to finances, but it hit a little home because the second time I had to really deal with boundaries was with someone who, you just never really think about setting boundaries for. But it was my mom. And I was going through a time of understanding what stewardship meant, and how I believe God gave us resources and what He expects us to do with them. And with that, if we allow other people to do whatever they feel necessary with what we've been entrusted with, that is not their fault, that's our fault. And so I was having those thoughts. I was thinking about that, and a situation came up with my mom, and I had to look at my ability at that time. This was a long time ago. But I had to look at my ability at that time to help in that situation. And I prayed about it. And based on what I heard when I prayed about it, the answer was no. You are not able to do what you're being asked to do. You are responsible for what I have given you. I know this is going to be hard, but you're going to have to say no. And for probably the first time ever in my life, I told my mom I was not going to be able to help her. And she did not understand. And I had to pray about it, and I had to suffer through it, and I didn't have to hear about it because she did not talk to me again for quite some time. And what gave me solace when she would not talk to me is that this is what I am required to do, to be the steward over my finances, over my time, over the life that God has given me and what He wants from me and expects from me. And if I can't say no here, then can He trust me to say no anywhere? And does this person have so much power over me that I would listen to them more than I would listen to God? Okay, that is a problem. Because for someone like me who has a belief that God is the beginning and the end, the ultimate, the everything, I can't knowingly put someone over Him. It's also why I'm single, partially why I'm single. Because then I'm choosing them over Him. And in some cases, for me, it's like, well, if I choose you over God, when I need something, where am I going to go? Because you ain't God. And when I'm crying or when I'm praying, or like, did I just replace you, God, with you? Did I just make you my God? And so it's just so many thoughts that came up in trying to make that decision, that I was comforted in knowing that regardless of how she feels, this is the right decision. And I have to be strong enough to make that decision and live with that decision. And if I can tell my moms, who I love very much, no, there is not a person on this earth that will get a yes when they shouldn't. That was the second, probably the most pivotal for me when it came to boundaries, because then I started to assess what I was giving up in order to say yes to people, and how was I going to feel about that afterwards. And if I did what they wanted me to do and they were okay with the decision that came because they got what they needed or they wanted, who was going to focus on me getting what I needed and I wanted? And the answer to that question is not always what you want it to be. And it's not always what people like to hear, but it is my responsibility to make sure that my yes can benefit us both. It can't just benefit you. It could just benefit me. But if it is going to benefit you, it has to benefit me as well. I have to know that if I'm going to sacrifice, I'm willing to make that sacrifice. I know exactly why I'm making it. And I need to. Or if I'm not, I need to understand why. What for myself. What is saying no going to do? Is it a time where I can say yes and still be okay? It's not boundaries for the sake of having boundaries, right? It's not saying no just because you can. The boundaries are there to protect you. If you don't need protecting, you kind of don't need them. Unless you are strategically setting it so you will set a precedent that this is not something you can do, which still is protecting yourself, then you should reconsider the reason you're saying no. And is it something that the person is doing that's making you believe you need to say no? Or is it truly that you need to institute this boundary to protect yourself? It's understanding the impact of your yes and what that will do to you. And if that yes is going to cause you to either feel some way or be some way, or it's going to cause anxiety or overwhelm, it's going to be too much for you to handle, despite what the other person wants, despite who the other person is, despite everything society tells you about what you need to do or what is appropriate or proper in this case, you owe it to yourself to honor what you need. Because if you don't, who will? And so in considering boundaries, I consider whether I can give a wholehearted yes. And if I can, then okay, I will. And if I can't, and it's something that I still have to do, then I focus on how can I do this thing and be okay. And so in that case, I set a boundary that I can live with. And the other person, whoever that is, they can get some part of what they want. But I have a responsibility to myself to make sure that I am looking out for me. And I am the only one who knows me, at least as well as I know me, right? Nobody knows you better than you. Nobody knows what is going to work for you better than you. Now, I also submit to you that in setting boundaries, you have to know yourself. If you are a person who has to set a lot of boundaries to function, that's okay, but you should find out why. Why is it that I need this boundary? What is causing me to be here? Because that will help you understand whether you're setting healthy boundaries or whether you have an enlarged need for boundaries, which may be indicative of other things. And so there are spaces that you can be in that are challenging to you, and that you have to think through, how does this impact me? How is this going to impact me in the future? Or what from the past has impacted me to the point where I am now, right? You have to think about those things. There's nothing wrong with being how you are and who you are, but understanding who you are, understanding what you need, understanding what boundaries you need to set to protect yourself is going to help you go further in being able to set and execute on that, so that you can be protected and the other person can know and respect your boundaries. If people don't respect your boundaries, that's a different conversation, right? If you tell someone, this is what I need for me, and they have a problem with that, then they need to go talk to somebody. That is not your fault or your problem, right? You can wonder why you need that. You can assess why you need that, and then you can assess whether you should need that or not. And if you shouldn't, then you should talk to somebody. Pray about it for sure. Talk to God if you have that relationship. If you don't, work on building that relationship, because I can assure you, He will tell you really quickly whether you're doing too much, whether you're out of line, whether what you're needing is because of a lack of something else, or whether you're right on track. And so if you find that you have boundaries that you feel like you probably shouldn't need them, or you probably shouldn't have to have them, then you should be able to assess that, or work with someone to be able to assess that and understand more about yourself. But boundaries are there to protect you. And then I forgot I was actually doing makeup for you. So that is how I came about. That's how strengthening my ability to honor my boundaries and to make sure that I was protecting me and doing what I was called to do as a steward of my time and of my my finances, of my skill set, of my person, of my being. I learned boundaries by understanding what was driving my need to be responsible, for my actions, for my decisions, for me realizing that I have been given the responsibility to manage my time. I have the responsibility of managing my money and my finances. And I get a say in anything that involves me. And if I choose not to take that say, that is not the other person's fault. That is my fault. And when God comes looking for what did you do with what I gave you, He's not going to care that you gave it to your mom or your dad or somebody you really, really care about. The question is still, what did you do with what I gave you? What did you do with the time I gave you? What did you do with the resources I gave you? I didn't give it to you to completely or necessarily give it away. Yes, we are here to help each other and we should help each other, but we should do that in a very healthy way. And we should make sure that when we're doing that, we're still meeting the requirements that God gave us, regardless of who. They should be able to understand why you're doing what you're doing, and they should be okay with that. And if they aren't, then you can address it with them later. You can tell them you understand, because you probably do understand. But at the end of the day, you still have to do what God had told you to do, sugar. So as October ends, remember, Set your boundaries. Understand why you have them, why you need them, what you're protecting yourself from, what your yes means, and what your no means. Understand that you depend on you to protect you. And other people will protect you. I'm not saying they won't, but ultimately, it is your responsibility to make sure that you are a good steward of your time, your emotions, your resources. And if you are not stewarding that in the way that God intended, then yes, you will be overwhelmed. You will have too much on your plate. You will be trying to figure out how you're going to get everything done, and you will have to come to your rescue. And so prevent all of that from happening. Communicate. Understand that people will understand you. Know that people will accept that you need something for yourself, and trust those people to care and love you enough to respect your decision. They may not understand it. They may not like it. They may not agree with it. It is okay. Trust that they are still going to be there for you. They are still going to love you. And if they don't, then trust that those people weren't meant to share this space with you, and that's okay as well. Boundaries are healthy, and healthy boundaries make for a healthy, whole, happy person. At least that's part of the makeup. There's so much more.